Hey everybody, welcome to today's episode of Dad Pod. I'm joined by my dad. Excited to bring this one to you guys. We were supposed to be talking with another guest, but those technical difficulties hit them, and so had those plans fall through. But so today we're gonna kind of bring up. We weren't actually gonna do this episode this week at all. Actually, it just prompted us because you can probably still hear I'm congested. And our family's been sick pretty much all week, and it was really bad in the middle of the week, and so we're kind of coming through that here on the end. And we decided that was going to be our topic of discussion, which what do you do as a man and as a dad when you are sick? And what do you do with that from in terms of work, and how do you do that as a as a dad and when you're normal in your normal parenting life? And so uh yeah, so we were supposed to speak with someone else. Hopefully, you'll forgive that, and we'll have them on a different episode. Um, but that brought up those points. Is there was a lot of other ringing going on in my head from headaches and whatnot, but these words were also ringing true. As I was talking with you earlier, Dad, I know, and we was like, "Oh, should we do an episode this week?" And James Clear's words in Atomic Habits were ringing to me, which were, you can miss once, but don't ever miss twice when you're trying to build a habit and stay consistent. And so that's what we're doing here right now is staying consistent since we missed last week because you guys were enjoying yourselves in Boston. And so, yeah, how was that, by the way?
It was really good, actually. The weather was really nice in Boston. We went to the Yankees Red Sox game with the grandsons and sat on the Green Monster. Actually, it was pretty cool. And Judge hit a home
Even the
run.
Yankees, even watching
Yankees.
the Yankees.
We we watched the Yankees versus the Red Sox. Yes. And the Red Sox won, which was nice because I'm not a Yankee fan, but Judge did hit a home run out of the stadium over our heads and so into the parking lot behind us. So that was pretty cool.
That is
But it was more
awesome.
fun just spending time with the grandsons, and just watching them, and that was the whole time. And then of course Kai's playing, yeah, at Cooperstown, so that was part of the reason we went back there. And so we also saw Phillies, San Diego's Padres game, so that was also fun. And the Phillies actually won in the bottom of the ninth with a walk-off single. And the crowd, I mean, it was awesome because the place was just rocking. It
Was
was,
roaring. Oh
yeah,
man, that's fun.
it was fun. I do want to set a teaser for that episode Clay alluded to, and it was meant to be a Father's Day um, episode with my father-in-law, and he's a good man, hardworking. Really became a second father to me, as my father has been gone for this year. Clay's going to be 30 years that Papa's been gone, and
Dang.
so my father-in-law became my father, and so I was excited to introduce him. He just turned 89 this last week, so he's getting up there, but his mind is still really there. He's really sharp. And so anyway, it'll be a good episode. We'll talk about
He'll
that.
say that he's not really sharp. In fact, when I talked to him to invite him on, he was like, "Oh, I hope I can remember." And honestly, I'm glad you're putting a plug here for it, and I'll say just a couple words about that next episode because yeah, that Father's Day special is gonna be really fun. It'll be a couple weeks late, but again, just in the whole Atomic Habits mindset is just sticking with it and do it anyway. And so uh, he is I've never really asked him about his life that way, and I know a few things, but so I'm really excited because this will be these will be whole new stories for me. I'll learn things from him and the wisdom from him from his years and his experiences on what his life was like. Growing up as a boy, what he understood as what masculinity was and what it was like to be a man, and then how he carried that over into becoming a father. And he has 8 children, so I mean he he knows what he's talking about. And so I'm excited to learn more. And he's a very quiet individual. And so, very much reserved. He's very opinionated, but, and that I do know, but I'm really excited to hear this side from him, because I don't know if I've ever heard some of these stories or what he's felt about a lot of these things. And so this will be a really cool, eye-opening experience for someone who's just about 90. And so I hope you guys do tune into that one once we get him on. And so, yeah,
Well, here's a good teaser
excited to
for
cover
that
that.
one, Clay. Here's a segue into this program too, because he was a hardworking individual, and they used to call him Double Time Don. So he worked so hard. He never turned down an opportunity to work overtime. He loved what he did. He worked for that same organization. And I'll let him tell you about that for his whole entire work experience.
Mm-hmm.
But and his style of saving, because we're going to forget, we probably won't ask him this, but he said every time he got a raise or some kind of extra pay in his check, he put that away. He just lived on what he first started with his entire career. And so he was able to retire at 55. But anyway, and this is a blue collar guy. So I have a ton of respect for him and his wisdom. But that brings me to how my dad and my example of watching him and his working habits. He also was a very hard worker, blue collar worker, worked 6 days a week plus overtime as well. His goal, and he did it well, was to provide for the family, and he did. He worked hard to put food on the table for us, and he. I think I've said it before. He grew up very poor, and so his rule at our house was, I don't, if you're hungry, go in the kitchen, and I don't care what time of day or night it is, and help yourself. Just don't waste any food. And that, to this day, I can't throw food away because it was precious in our home. Right. And
Yeah,
our
yeah,
just adamant about, hey, you can eat all you want. Just don't take it and put it on your plate and then say, I'm too hungry, and throw it away. That was absolutely a no-no in our house. But I remember specifically when I was starting to work, there were a couple of things he said. He says, one, you are building your reputation out there, and that's all you have. And so when you start working, you build that reputation about whether you're a good worker, whether you're honest, that kind of thing. And he says, be the first one on the job and the last one to leave, and never call in sick. I remember him saying, you will never call in sick. I don't care if you're dying, you're going to show up to work. And this is when I was at home. So he could say those things to me.
yeah,
And,
yeah.
and I listened because he was my dad, but it stuck with me. I don't believe I've ever called in sick to work ever in my career. And it's not to say that I've never been sick, but this is in the days before you wore masks and stuff like that. So I worked, and that was, and there's no way, even if I felt like I'd call in sick, because I'd feeling guilty if I didn't show up. So no, I went to work, and that's just how it was at our house, and how we, right or wrong. And I believe that there's certainly a balance there. I don't think it is right to
Yeah,
go to some work when you're sick, because you're gonna either compound the issue or get somebody else sick. So you
for
can't
sure.
do that. But that's how I was taught, and so I was just ingrained with that and with that attitude.
Yeah, in fact, just this week, I'll talk about that mindset and how I'm trying to shift a little bit away from that and try to find more of that balance, because there's I, I went into my app to schedule the sick time off, and I'm really glad I did, because that morning on Tuesday I showed up to work and I I was way out of it, and I was glad that I left when I did. I left about an hour after being in the office at work. I told my boss, I'm like, I am way out of it. I'm gonna have to go home. And so I went home, and I'm so glad I did, because that was one of the worst congestion, headaches, and just throat issues that I've had in a long time. And I know I would have just been sitting there wasting the company's time and my time and worrying everyone else, as I'm hacking up a lung, you know, sitting around me is like, dude, this guy is get out of
Yeah,
here,
go
man.
home.
Go home, bro, please, because this
Yeah.
is you're distracting all of us. And so uh there's definitely a balance there, and I'm glad that I took that time. But even when I went home, I was sitting there talking about that mentality because you know, that mentality still resonates to me, and I'm trying to figure out that okay, it's okay, take the time, balance, heal. And my boss is telling me that, right? He's like, no, you got the time. It's budgeted, right? You put your sick time in and you do what you got to do to recover, you know, and come back healthy and strong, right? Because if not, it's just going to be worse. And so, but even then, sitting on the couch, I was sitting there like, I'm missing, you know, time. And in sales, it's particularly rough, and I've never coded, so maybe I shouldn't use this term, but I feel like on certain projects you can kind of leave them behind, or certain things will still be there when you come back in certain industries of work, and some are going to be, you know, not that way. But in sales in particular, if you miss a day of not working with your clients or letting your, you know, or not finding new ones, you get comes back to haunt you at some in the point in the next few weeks or months. And so you definitely don't want to miss very much time. And so I just was sitting there stewing on that, on top of the mentality that I've been ingrained with by you, which is, you know, don't miss, you know, you never call
Yeah.
in sick. And so I'm and so I've been working really hard on, if I'm away from work, and this, whether it's sick time or vacation time, trying to truly separate my mind and give my kids my full attention. And uh and it's definitely a work in progress, especially, well, if you don't like what you do, then you just stress, and if you do like what you do, then your mind's still obsessing over you know, how to get better or do or do your job better because you really like it, right? So there's, I guess, a dynamic there. But
Well,
uh
it's harder too because in today's age, because the whole work at home thing. I mean, you know, if you're working and going into the office, and I'm talking in relationship to your children, right? And especially little
yeah,
children
yeah.
who are not at school, it's harder working at home because they're there. And so they expect
Yeah.
when you're there, they're knocking on the door, looking in the window, or, you know, hey,
Yeah.
dad, can you come out
Yeah.
and do it? And I even see it on calls where kids come, you know, the guy's like, I'm sorry, you know, or the person's saying, I'm sorry, my kids are
But
running
no one really
around.
cares, right? I mean, everyone's
No,
like, "Oh, that's great.
no
Bring them
one,
on." Yeah.
everybody's pretty understanding because they're in the same boat themselves. I'm an empty
Oh, for
nester,
sure.
so it doesn't affect me, but
Right.
I'm totally sympathetic to it. And I actually want them to take care of their children's needs. I mean, I tell my team that the kids come first. So you go do what you got to do. We'll take care of those other things. And for the most part, it doesn't get in the way. I haven't seen it in a circumstance where it's been a problem. So I
Right.
want them to know that even though we work for a good company, I work for a good company. I want them to know that families first, or priorities, need to be set in a certain way, and that's how we set our culture in our organization. So
Yeah, and that's how people are going to give you their best work.
they
And
will.
I think that's what helps me with um that's what helps me in that mindset of being able to separate myself from work. Uh is because since I've been, you know, part of tech layoffs a couple times, I can go, all right, at the end of the day, I'm extremely replaceable there. And so, okay, fine, go ahead. You know, I'm going to take my time that's budgeted, because if I'm at just a number on an Excel sheet at the end of the day that they have to pay for, right? And if they fire me and they replace me and they'll never, you know, remember
Never
me.
look back. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's like that makes it easier for me to be able to separate myself. And so it is getting easier on that front. And I just take that mentality. And so I guess maybe that's a tip, or just what's worked for me. Take it for what you guys want to take it for. But I mean, people are getting fired from their dream jobs working even at Amazon or Google, right? As people are going through huge layoffs, and so no job is secure in reality. Everything is replaced. I mean, I'm watching the Lakers try to find their seventh coach in like how many years? There's their fifth coach in like 7 years or something like that with the Lakers, and it's like, okay,
Yeah.
even the Lakers head coaches go through tons of change ups, and that's could be their dream job. So that helps me take those days and try not to stress too much because at the end of the day, I can't be fired from being a dad, nor can I take sick days from being a dad, and so on
Yeah. Why
on
don't you
that
talk about
front.
that for a minute, Clay? How does that work? Right.
Yeah. Well, you have more experience in that field than I do. I mean, you had mom, but as in a job, you have a budgeted amount of time. You can go into the app and you go, I'm clocking off, and they never bother you again, right? They want you to, they never bother you. That doesn't happen with kids. I haven't found, or at least I haven't found the app that goes, hey, you want to request time off? Okay, go ahead.
Well,
You can go
I'll share.
rest.
I'll share a story if you want, Clay, about you. Actually, I think it was you and Emily. And you know what? I used to go into the office, so that's different when you're there at home and mom's at home with the kids all day, and she's like, "I've had enough, and it's my turn," and that's fine. That's appropriate. But it's
Yeah.
also hard too when you come home and it's like you've had an exhausting day at work, and you're driving in, and then I remember coming home one day, and I come in the house, and mom's on the couch, I think, or whatever, and she says, "You have to go upstairs. The kids have been throwing up all day, and I can't handle it. It's gonna make me throw up, and you gotta take care of all that stuff." And I was just like, "Are you kidding me? You left all the sheets and all the stuff in the bathroom for to be cleaned up." And I simply like, because you need to, if you don't, well, you don't know my wife. She is absolutely Monica on Friends. Okay, she is clean. Everything is, there's a place for everything and everything in its place, and I clean up after right away. And so our house is always presentable. I really appreciate that about her. She's very meticulous that way, and she's had to put up with me these 43, almost 44 years. So I can do those things when it's my turn because she'll be throwing up herself. But I just remember coming home and after a long day's work and having to, I can't call in sick. I got to take care of those things. And usually the kids, you guys would come to me when you were sick because for some innate reason, you knew mom wasn't going to be able to help you with that stuff. So, yeah, you can't take a day off when you're a dad. You've got to gut it out. And I think I'm going to share this about this. I think for me, when my dad says you're always going to work, it instilled in me stamina, I'll say, to go to work and to gut it out or have a determination to get the job done, whatever that was. That I was never going to quit,
Yeah.
right? And so I'll share. I for my 60th birthday, I went on a century ride for my. Well, it was a little bit before my 60th birthday, but I wanted to do this while I was still able to do it. And I think I still could. But anyway, I went on a century ride for my bike, and Kyle went with me. And Kyle didn't train to he just went along because he was trying to help me pace and, keep me from going out of the gate like a rabbit. But I know I came to the end of there's the 100 miles. It was 100 miles in St. George, Utah. And the dumb route, they had you climb this huge climb. It was probably about a mile long, maybe a little bit more than a mile, and it had to be like a 10% grade. And I go, those jerks, they put that route there. And I remember thinking, I'm going to get off, and I'm like, I've come this far, all this way. My goal is to ride 100 miles, and there's these other cars passing me. And I was thinking to myself, they'll see me going up this hill, getting off my bike. They'll say, "Oh, that guy couldn't hack it." And I'm like, I am not going to be that guy. So I'm just gonna get it out and ride. I don't care if my legs fall off. I'm gonna
Ego
make
much?
the hill.
Oh man.
So
Ego
I,
much? Yeah.
yeah,
But those are the games you play though.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
That's-
you know what, Dad, that you'll come across this, in, because I know I recommended "You Can't Hurt Me" by
Yes,
David
I haven't read it
Goggins.
yet. Yeah.
He talks about that. He talks about taking souls, and that's part of that the mind games you play to get yourself to go further or do things that you normally wouldn't do or to get past
Yeah.
the discomfort.
Find your motivation.
The game that you played with, these cars are going to pass by me and say, "Oh, he's getting off. I can't believe he got off and decided to walk." And you know what? They probably don't even care. They'll look at you and go, "Oh man, he's
No,
riding a bike uphill. What an idiot."
it's so true. And I feel like I was an idiot.
Or
So
man, I'm glad I'm not him. It's really hot. I'm not going down there. I'm not doing that. Oh, that's great. They're not thinking, "Oh, what a sissy," right? That's at least
yeah,
that's how I would think. I see these guys riding the bikes on the side. I'm like, man, I'm surprised that they have the courage to ride on the side of these roads where people are on their phones and not paying attention.
that's
That's what goes
also
through
true.
my mind.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
but yeah, um, that's that motivation to find and dig deeper. That brings up a point, right? Because you focused. I mean, you changed your focus from how tired am I right now? How much pain am I in? To you went back to remembering what your end goal was and that helped you to push through. And it's the same thing with parenting, right? And I mean, that reminds me of, because you asked me before this, you're like, well, maybe you didn't ask me, or maybe I just offered up, but we talked about, I don't remember ever really getting tired when I was, in soccer or when I was, on my sports teams. You talked about going to the end of the game and, you have to find it within yourself to dig deeper when you're tired. And I don't remember ever doing that because I just remember always being in the mindset of trying to win. And this isn't saying that I'm special. This isn't like some sort of humble brag because I don't think I'm anything great or special there. But this is a tip that I think I need to come back to and try to find myself in, because I do say to myself a lot when I get home, I was like, oh man, I'm really tired. I don't know if I want to go out there in the 90 degrees that it is outside and the sun is beating on our trampoline right now, but my son really wants to jump on the trampoline and I am cooking right now. I got a bald head, so I got to put on like sunscreen or a hat or something that's too tight around my big old dome because then it's going to give me a headache, right? So I'm thinking of all these things, right? Just like what you were saying, and on your hill going up the on your bike is, oh man, I'm really tired. I could just get up. I could just get off and walk. And I could easily say to my son, I don't want to get a headache. I don't want to put a hat on. I don't want to go outside. It's 90 degrees. Can we just stay inside, right? And I think that change in mindset and going back to how I used to think when I was on my sports teams is I didn't really think about the tiredness or the pain or whatever. I just wanted to find the focus on my objective and the win condition. And the objective with my kids should always be, how can I take advantage of the time that I have with them to help them in this new, jumping on the trampoline or do something cool with them to remember this experience, right? And
yeah,
that's really hard to do, and you're not going to be able to do it every single time. At least I know I'm not, and I haven't been able to, but something that is going to that does work is remembering the big picture, or remembering, instead of the pain or the discomfort, is going back to my objectives. And if you can set the objectives and say that beforehand, again, going back to atomic habits, and I'll say that again, is knowing uh, what your objective is with each scenario, and setting up the systems that you want to put in place to become the person that you want to be and be the dad that you want to be. And so, um, again, focusing on that why or the outcome and trying to look past those discomforts and those excuses to not do something, and finding a way to push through that. And that's what's helped me, and what continues to help me. So maybe you guys can find some inspiration from that. But
yeah. Excellent.
um, yeah, that's really what we wanted to talk about this time, right? And me being sick this week was interesting, trying to push through making dinners when everybody's sick and helping my wife do some of those tasks or things to you just have to put off when everyone is way out of energy and way sick. This is the last thing I was going to say too in regards to that, because I did forget to mention something there. But doing one little bit of something, coming back again to Atomic Habits, that's really helped change my life was doing 2 minutes of something. And so if you can agree with yourself that when you're sick, I will do 2 minutes of putting dishes away and no more than 2 minutes, right? Yes, of course. But what I mean by doing dishes is who cares if your hands are clean if you're going to put them in the dishwasher. That's what I mean by doing those dishes. So, getting an automated machine, since we're so ungrateful these days to help do that. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to say one more thing about that too. I got whether I'm smart or dumb, I got Amanda these reusable plastic bags. They're really cool. They really are. They really are until you have to wash them. And they are a menace because they pile up there in that on that other side of the sink, and it's like an hour long process. It really is. You have to set aside that time. I missed that comment too, Dad. I was going to mention something while you were talking. Um, but by doing the whole 2 minute thing and doing the implementation statement that I will do, when I'm sick, I will do 2 minutes of dishes for 2 minutes only or whatever, right? So you at time and place, right? So state and implementation then becomes easier to do, but it helps you budget in your mind what you were already going to do and set aside. You've already made the decision to do the thing. So when you were climbing up the hill, you'd already decided that you were going to do 100 miles. So it made it easier to push past that pain and say, oh, I've already budgeted this part in my mind so I can do this, right? So already making the decision and budgeting in your head so that your expectations and your reality kind of come closer to alignment, it makes it easier to do the things that you said you were going to do, uh, right? And kind of go towards that path. So anyway, I'm digressing again, but this was something that I missed that I meant to say earlier. So anyway, but that does come back to the washing of these plastic bags. If I just do 2 minutes and only 2 minutes and strictly hold yourself to only the 2 minutes, you'll make progress. Even though 2 minutes feels like nothing, you'll make progress. That's the getting 1% better. So anyway, that's that whole maybe my podcast is just a reiteration of implementing atomic habits into my life, but anyway, yeah. But yeah, that's what it's like to be sick as an employee versus a dad. It doesn't end when you're a dad and you just kind of have to push through. But hopefully those couple things of make sure to focus on your objective rather than the pain or how tired you might be. If you focus on that, it helps kind of get you through to what you need to do in a day. And then again, just budgeting in your mind, your expectations versus your reality, budgeting in your mind what you were already going to do, right? Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So anyway, that's really all we wanted to discuss here. For all you dads out there, keep warring on when you're sick. Just have a plan in place on what you may or may not do, and sometimes those plans don't work. But miss once, you can miss once, but don't miss twice. And focus hard on what your objectives are and what you want, and better things will happen because you budgeted it out in your mind and you made a plan, a contingency plan for it. So, dude, well, we're supposed to do something this weekend, so I'm planning on watching Saving Private Ryan again. So here we go. But all right. Well, this was today's episode, guys. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you guys on the next one.